It's time for another podcast by George. Straight talk, straight from the heartland, that'll have you saying, "By George, I think he's got it." Now, here's George.
Hello, hi, how are you? And welcome back to another podcast by George. Been looking forward to this for a long time. This is going to be great. I'm going to like this. You're going to like this. There ain't anybody not going to like this. This is canineassistance.org. Service dogs. Therapy dogs. I mean, this is a wonderful thing, and I tell you, this is the best part of the podcast. Some things I have to put on because they're so important, like politics and climate change and all those types of things. But every now and then, I do stuff just because I want to, and I want to do this. I love canineassistance.org. And joining us on the podcast by George Live Line today is Dudley Arnold, who's kind enough to come on with us. He's with the organization down there and can share a little bit about us. And to background it a little bit, the way I got introduced to the organization, a buddy of mine's got a service dog, a therapy dog, visits children's hospitals and nursing homes. And my God, if you've ever seen the reaction of patients and residents to these therapy dogs, I mean, it will make a full-grown man, an old man, a tough old dog like me cry. I mean, it is something else. So let's bring him in. Let's introduce Dudley Arnold. And Dudley, I always kind of like to tell people, even though you're on the live line, where they're at. You're down in Georgia, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's where the organization is based, right?
We're in Milton, Georgia, about 30 minutes north of Atlanta.
Yeah, and the farm, to kind of describe it down there, and I've seen a little bit of it online, about 18 acres of a dog farm down there. They got about 100 dogs that are working in training all the time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have about 18 acres, and we you generally have 100 to 125 dogs, learning at any given time. And, they range in age from a few days old to about a year and a half, 2 years of age, and pretty much ready to be matched with their perfect person.
Yeah, people love dogs. And, I mentioned off the top about the service dogs, but there's so many different things that they do. And one thing that's becoming very significant and important, they do things like a hurricane relief and disaster relief. And I also wanted to ask you these horrific shooting incidents and stuff around the world. Are your dogs involved in that? Do you go out and do the dogs counsel victims of crimes and devastation like that?
I know we've made some attempts to do that. We tried to send some dogs up to Connecticut a few years ago,
yeah.
Sandy Hook,
Yeah.
And there have been some other situations where I know we've made attempts to send dogs, but I'm unaware of any specific, times we've really been able to do lots of that.
Wow.
We would definitely be interested in trying to do more of it. I know the Atlanta airport has been working on having dogs just walk around and comfort passengers as they wait to board flights, and I think a number of airports around the country, from what I've heard, are doing things like that. So yes, there's so many ways that dogs help people and help comfort people, and we see that in really, all areas of placements that we're able to do.
Yeah, so put the Valium back on the shelf when you get ready to fly and call canineassistance.org and get yourself a little therapy from a dog before you get on the plane. They have a great calming influence. I mean, they're really good for that. And the medical angle of this, of course, is kind of the, I don't know, maybe the Rosetta Stone for the organization, because your founder, that's how she got involved in this, right? She's an MS sufferer that got involved in the therapy dog world.
It is. So Jennifer Arnold, our founder, was diagnosed at age 16, I think, with multiple sclerosis. And, Jennifer had always been an active child. And, the thought of having to spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair was overwhelming to her. And so she and her father and really whole family were all animal lovers. Jennifer grew up horseback riding and had a love for horses and all animals. And her father read an article in a medical journal. He was an ophthalmologist in Atlanta, and he came across an article in a medical journal one day about a woman in California who was training service dogs to help people with physical disabilities and other types of issues. And this was back in the late 1970s. So, of course, seeing eye dogs had been around for many decades at that point. But, your all-purpose general service dog to help somebody with physical disabilities and medical needs and things like that was different. That was, it was new at the time and not well known. And so Jennifer and her father contacted this lady whose name is Bonnie Bergen. She started Canine Companions for Independence, and Bonnie, told him she would love to help, but she just had a very small program going at the time and was unable to place a dog as far away as Georgia. And so, Jennifer was upset, and she and her father really decided they wanted to do something about this, and sat down one day and discussed it, and thought, if Jennifer needed a service dog, surely there were lots of other people in Georgia and the Southeast who could benefit from them as well. And so that's where the idea to start Canine Assistance really came from.
Well, I know one place where it really works, and I've been touched by this personally a couple of times, and it's been on the podcast quite a bit. It's the scourge of ALS. And if you want to go to canineassistance.org and look at some of these dogs and look at those ALS sufferers, and my God, everybody knows what a horrible, hideous thing that is for people to be immobilized and in these wheelchairs and basically literally unable to lift a finger, and to have these dogs and look into the faces of it's just like I said, man, it'll make an old man weep. Let's I want to talk about the dogs a little bit. Now you've placed in 1,500 dogs I saw on the website, probably many more than that now, around the country since the organization began. A lot of people might want to get involved in this. It's a great endeavor. The dogs, there seems to be a lot of yellow labs, a lot of golden retrievers. Is there a kind of a leaning towards one breed of a dog, or can any dog be used for this purpose?
I think virtually any dog could be used for it. We lean towards the golden retrievers and the Labradors because they're what we've always used. We know them very well. In the early days of Canine Assistance, most of our applicants needed dogs who were able to retrieve dropped objects and hit elevator buttons and tug cabinets open, and retrieving and just generally using mouths comes so naturally to golden retrievers and labs that they were good dogs for us to work with, because teaching a dog who's not sort of naturally prone to retrieving and tugging and using its mouth a lot can be difficult. And so, these breeds just work well for us. They also have obviously a great public perception. They're very approachable. They're very social.
They're beautiful. Yeah.
And they're great looking dogs.
Yeah.
And, they're as beneficial for people socially, if not more so than they are physically, and the benefits they can provide for someone medically as well. So they're great social icebreakers.
Yeah. And the dogs seem to love it. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, they're not. I have enough trouble talking to people, let alone dogs. But I mean, it's kind of their purpose. They're meant to do these types of things. You're talking about the retrieving and that. So they're happy campers too, right?
They're happy. It really is. It really is a win-win. I mean, the dogs love doing this. They love working. I mean, you can see it in their body language, and there have been a lot of studies done on these types of things, where you can just you see it, and then when you match the perfect dog with the perfect person, you just have a really a really great combination where the sky's the limit, and we really want people and dogs to both make each other's lives happier and more fulfilling. So
And
that's really what we aim for.
it's happening. I'm telling you, it's a great thing. Well, yeah, our podcasts are about 25 minutes long, and it's amazing how quickly it goes by. So we can't stay with you all morning. I would love to. Everybody's got a story, and I know that you undoubtedly do too, as far as the dogs that you've worked with and that type of thing. Just share with our listeners a little snippet or story about one of the dogs that you've worked with that you might be able to share.
Well, when I got started with Kane, so I am now in operations, and I deal with a lot of paperwork and things
Yeah.
like that, and I don't get as much hands-on time with
Darn it,
the
anyway.
dogs
Yeah.
than I used to. But
Yeah.
it's still great to get up and
Yeah.
walk around our facility a little bit and visit with dogs and pet them. But I've seen, when I first got here, I had the pleasure of working with dogs in our nursery, our younger
Oh.
puppies,
Oh.
and just holding those little guys and getting them used to the way people smell and the noises people make, and just everyday life, sounds and surfaces, and just all the different things we get them prepared for. It was amazing, and you could just see how much these dogs really took to people, and they just dogs are really, as Jennifer would tell you, the only species that didn't have to be forcibly domesticated. They've going back thousands of years, dogs have always chosen to be with mankind, and so that just naturally makes them great partners for us as people. And it's just amazing what really I grew up liking dogs and being around dogs a lot, but when I saw how dogs and people were impacting each other
Yeah.
when they were matched together and started living life together, that's what sold me on this industry and on canine assistance. And just to see the smiles. You talk to parents who come in here with their kids who are 9, 10, 11 years old, and they tell you that this is the first time they've seen the child smile, and they don't know how long, and you just realize the impact that it's making on both the people and the dogs, and not just the individual person who's receiving the service dog, but the mom and the dad and the brothers and the sisters and the family members and friends, and really communities are changed by these service and facility dogs. And So that's what really sold me on this whole process.
I'm sold. I'm all in. My God, just this interview. It's just great to get a break from politics and the things that I've been talking about on here to talk about canineassistance.org. Well, let's take care of a little bit of business here at the end. Now, for people that are listening that want to get involved, maybe they want to volunteer, maybe they'd like to participate with a dog, maybe they'd like to refer someone that could use the help of your organization. They just simply want to contribute to a great cause. Yeah, all of those types of things. What's the best way for them to get in touch with your group?
The best way is definitely online at our website, canineassistance.org, and from there you can find out about our local volunteering programs here in the Atlanta area. We also have some national volunteering programs across the United States, and our application is online. The ability to donate to the organization is there online. It's all pretty clear and user friendly. But I definitely suggest taking a look at our website, and there's a wealth of information on there.
Yeah, and I'm going to share some of that information, mostly in the way of photos and videos and stuff during the podcast as we talk, so people can have a look at that. Well, that's great. Dudley Arnold down there with canineassistance.org. I'll give you the last word, Dudley. Anything that I should have asked about that I didn't? Anything you want to say here in closing before we finish off the podcast?
I think we hit on all the big notes, but
Yeah.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you this morning, and I hope I hope some helpful information was provided to listeners.
Well, good on you down there in the great state of the red Georgia clay down there, down in Georgia with canineassistance.org. Good on you, brother. Well, that's going to wrap it up. That's going to do it for this podcast. That was a lot of fun, man. I enjoyed that. I enjoy these images and photos and videos and all of this. And if you're so inclined, it'll make the world a better place. That's what they're doing each and every day, canineassistance.org. Right now, though, we're going to wrap it up. That's another podcast. By George.